and I'm going to be telling you about how Classcraft works today. So I'll stop every once in a while to look in the chat to see if there are any questions, but I can also answer questions at the end as well. So I'm going to have Glycaria take some notes for me on some of the bigger questions in case I miss them. Okay, so what we want to do today is just look at the game itself, look at how it works, look at how to get started with it, so how the game would work in a typical classroom, as well as how you can get started setting up your own class. So if you'd like, you can give it a try. I'm just going to be going over the basic features of the game today. We have a lot of different features in the game, so I don't want to overwhelm you. I'll just give you sort of the basics. And then if we have any other questions pertaining to some of the more advanced features, I'm happy to answer any questions related to that as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. If at any point there are any problems understanding me, or you guys, I'm going too fast or anything like that, just please let me know and I will slow down a bit. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a quick overview of the game, quick overview of what Classcraft is. So Classcraft is a game platform that transforms your classroom into a role-playing game. So students play together in teams as mages, warriors, and healers, and by doing well in class, they're going to do well in the game and learn game powers that give them real-life privileges. So everything that goes on in Classcraft is very grounded in the real class social experience. Classcraft is designed to be played for the whole school year. It holds student motivation and engagement throughout that time period, and it's designed to be collaborative rather than competitive. It's also not content specific, so you can use it as a layer over anything that you're teaching. You can use Classcraft with just a single computer and a projector so that your students can follow along. You can also use it with one-to-one devices, so if your students have their own computers or tablets, you can have them use their devices as well. In total, Classcraft is designed to take about 5 minutes per class hour. The goal isn't to have any class time taken away because of Classcraft, but instead to use that class management time that you're already spending in a more productive way. So hopefully it'll get yourself some time on management so you have more time for your lesson. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of this game dashboard screen here. This is where most of the magic happens. So along the left, we have our bar. It is our menu system. And if you click the 3 lines at the top, you can expand this sidebar so you can see more information about each of these features. And so you can switch between any classes that you have as well. Right underneath that is this little house icon, and if we click this, it'll take us to the game backend. So this is the teacher homepage. This is where teachers can set up their classes, they can put their students in the game. You can change the game rules. Classcraft is very customizable, so you can change a number of things about how the game works. So I'll be getting into this section in the second half of the webinar. So I'm just going to click on these 2 cross swords on the sidebar, and I'll go back to my game dashboard for now. So along the top right, just give that a second to load. Along the top right is your profile icon, and if you click this, it'll bring up a menu of some different options that are available to you regarding management of the game, as well as some resources as well. We have a help section in here. We've got some really great community forums. We've actually got quite an international community, so I'm sure you can see other teachers and meet other teachers who are using the game where you are. We've got quite a few teachers in Europe, which is really exciting. And just some other options that are there for you. So I'll go over that a little bit towards the end of the webinar. Right next to that is this newspaper icon, and it brings up the game feed. And this is a record of every single action that happens in the game. So whenever you or your students do something in Classcraft, it all gets recorded here so that you have a nice log of everything that's happened. If I go over to the sidebar, again, down on the bottom left are a few other options. One is this audio button, so you can turn all the game audio on or off. We do have some sound effects that go along with different things in the game. There's also this question mark, which will bring up a little tip related to whatever screen you're currently viewing in the game. And just so you know, we do have the game available in different languages. I believe we have 8 languages. We've got Spanish, we've got German, I believe we have Russian. We've got quite a mix of different languages. So I'll show you that a bit later as well. And the last icon here is this gear icon, which takes you to your class settings for whatever class that you're currently viewing. And again, I'll go over this in the second half of the webinar. So let's let that load really quick. Okay. So next to your sidebar is your class list. You can see all of your students listed alphabetically by last name. So to access the student, you would just click on their name and it will bring up their game character and a little bit about their character in the middle here. The game, as I mentioned, is played in teams. So Meg is on the Nomads team here. We can see her team name up there and her team crest. And the smaller avatars on screen next to her are her teammates. So there's 2 ways to switch between teammates. You can either click on those smaller avatars at the bottom, or you can click on the horizontal boxes at the top. So we can switch this way as well. Now the teams in Classcraft are structured around character classes. So one type of character that we have is the mage, like Simon. And the mage sort of has this elemental look about him. Basically, in order for students to use powers in the game, they need what's called action points. And one way to get those action points is through the mages. Another type of character is the warrior, like Vicky. And it's the warrior's job to take damage on behalf of their teammates. So they're going to protect their teammates from damage in the game. And the last type is the healer, like Marie-France. And the healer gives health points to their teammates when their health gets low. So these 3 types of characters have different powers that are required in order for students to work together as a team. The only way to be successful in Classcraft is to work together. And as the teacher, you get to choose these teams at the beginning of your year. And this team dynamic will teach your students how to balance their own personal interests against the interests of their team. So it's going to teach them important skills that they need throughout school and throughout life, such as collaboration. So we can see here, if we look at Marie-France, she is at level 12, which means that she has leveled up 11 times. Everyone starts the game at level 1. We can also see her character class, so she's a healer. And she has 4 different colored bars here, and these represent her character stats. So basically, each one of these does something different. So this red bar is for HP, or health points, which you can think of as a student's life energy in the game. As if a student loses all of their health points, they're going to suffer consequences. This blue bar is for AP, or action points, which again is what students need to use their powers in the game. This yellow bar is for XP, or experience points, which is how students level up. So typically it takes about 1,000 experience points to level up. And finally, this gold bar is for GP, or gold pieces, which let students customize their characters. So they can change their outfits, their clothing, and so forth, and really make them look very unique to them. So these 4 buttons right below that correspond to those different stats, and they are color-coded. So the red minus button corresponds with HP, the yellow plus button corresponds with XP, and so forth. Right below that are any powers that the student currently knows. So Marie-France knows Heal 1, Sainthood, and Ardent Faith. And I'm going to be getting into all of this in more detail very shortly, but I'm going to start by talking about experience points, so XP, that yellow bar. But before I do, I just want to take a quick look at the chat. If anything hasn't been clear so far, just let me know. Otherwise, I will go ahead and keep going. So Carmela, is it sort of like a video game? Sort of. So Classcraft is very different from a typical video game in that most of the activity is taking place in class rather than on screen here. So you sort of run this in the background as you're teaching, but most of what's changing is those interactions between the students and the interactions between you and your students. But it sort of has that appeal of a video game that makes it really popular with kids. And it uses some of the ideas as well from video games, such as the health points and experience points. Marissa says they're all very elegant. Okay, looks like everybody's on the same page so far, so I will go ahead and talk more about those different character stats. Okay, so I want to start by talking about experience points, or XP. So experience points, this yellow bar here, is how students progress in the game, and they're earned through good actions. So as the teacher, you get to decide what those good actions are, and you get to reward these points to your students. So you can customize this however you'd like, depending on what sort of behaviors you want to encourage in your classroom. So let's say that you're teaching and Marie-France answers a question correctly in class. I'm going to click on this yellow plus button that corresponds with XP. And we have a list of different presets here that are all positive behaviors that we want to encourage during class. So you can certainly add your own presets onto this list as well. Correctly answering a question in class is worth 60 experience points. So I'm just going to click on this preset. And now the game will automatically give those points to the student. So we can take a look, if we look in the game feed, that Marie-France definitely got those 60 experience points for correctly answering a question. So the idea here is that this is very quick to do and you're still teaching in a normal way, but when you tell your student, hey, that was a good answer, you're going to give them points in the game as well. And this will give your students instant feedback on their behavior. Now, of course, like I mentioned, you can go ahead and add your own presets in here. So maybe you teach a language course and you want to encourage your students to build their vocabulary. You could type in here using a vocabulary word correctly. Anything you want can go in here. So very, very customizable. If you ever just want to give students points as a one-time thing and you don't want to add another preset to your list here, then you can go ahead and just enter a custom value over here on the right and it will give those points to your students. So as students earn these experience points, they're going to level up. And they also get a power point, and a power point allows them to learn new powers in the game. So when a student can learn new powers, this Learn Powers button is going to appear in green. And if we click this, it brings up the power tree. And the power tree is an arrangement of 9 different powers that are different, that are the same for each character class. So there's a power tree for the warriors, there's a power tree for the mages, and then there's another power tree for the healers. The powers on this first row are basic powers, and they just cost 1 power point each to learn. Power points are designated by this hand symbol here. Powers on the second row cost 2 power points each, and powers on the third row cost 3 power points each. So as students go further down this power tree, it takes a little bit more effort and hard work in order to unlock these better powers towards the bottom. Now, students also have to know any prerequisite powers that are associated with it. And you can see this by the different arrows that are pointing to the powers here. So for example, if she wanted to learn Heal 2, Marie-France would first have to know Heal 1. If we go further down the tree, let's say she wanted to learn Prayer, she would have to first know Favor of the Gods and Revive. So this gives students a little bit of choice in how they want to progress through this power tree, and it's also going to keep them engaged throughout the year and give them something to work towards as well. Now there are typically 18 levels in the game, and it costs 18 power points to get all of the powers. So most students will get between levels 12 and 15 by the end of the year. Really accomplished students will get to level 18, and less engaged students might only get to level 10. So let's take a look at some of these different powers. And just so you know, you can completely customize the names of the powers, so as well as some of what the powers do, so you can rename any of these here. So in the case of the healer, one power that they might want to learn first is Heal 1. And this one says a teammate gains 10 health points. And we can see by the little bubbles here how it's going to affect the student for using it. So it's actually going to cost 15 action points to use this power. So you can see that by the blue bubble. And she's also going to gain 75 experience points for using the power. And that's because Heal is an example of a collaborative power, which basically means whenever a student uses their powers to help their teammates, they're going to get a little bit of XP for doing that good deed for their team. Just want to, I minimized my chat window, so I'm going to see how I can get that back up. Sorry, one moment. Can you guys still hear me? I lost my my window. Not sure how to get my chat back up. Let me try this again. Okay, there we go. Oh, now I have an echo. Okay, looks like I didn't get disconnected, which is good. But I did, let's see. Okay, well, I'll just continue if you guys can still hear me, and I'll try to figure out later how to get my chat back up without an echo. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so if we look at another power such as Heal 2, it's a stronger power, and basically this one restores 20 health points as opposed to the 10 we just saw with Heal 1. And so it's a slightly stronger power. It also costs a little bit more action points to use and yields a slightly higher experience points bonus. So I'm going to learn this power for Marie-France. And now what happens is it shows up underneath her character information so that she can access that power at any time. Now these types of powers such as Heal 1 and Heal 2 are called game-based powers, and there are other types of powers in the game as well. So for example, there are personal powers such as Sainthood, where the student can open or close a window, or Favor of the Gods, where they can listen to their music during classwork. If these two don't work for you, you can certainly change these powers to whatever you think is going to be most motivating for your particular groups of students. So other examples could be getting to eat in class or getting to go get a drink of water. And these personal powers will give students a sense of empowerment and the ability to make choices in the classroom, which is going to help with engagement and make the student feel good about coming to class. There are also academic powers such as ardent faith. And like personal powers, you can customize these. So this particular power says during an exam, the student can ask the game master, that's the teacher, if their answer to a question is correct. Other examples could be getting to turn in an assignment a day later or getting to bring a cheat sheet to class. And these powers are motivating because they give students a sense that they're supporting their own academic performance. Now, students don't typically gain experience points for using personal or academic powers because they're using them for their own personal benefit. They'll only gain that XP bonus when they use a power to help their teammates. So you'll start to see that students will respond to the behaviors that you've set because they want to get these powers and be able to use these privileges during class. Now, on the other hand, how do we discourage negative behavior? And this is where health points or HP comes in. So again, this red bar here. Now, each character has a different max amount of HP that they can have at any time, depending on their character. So the healers can have up to 50 health points. The warriors can have up to 80. And the mages can have up to 30. And students are fine as long as they don't dip below 1 health point. If they do, that's when they get into trouble. So let's say that Marie-France arrived late to class, and that's something that you've decided you definitely want to discourage. We're going to click on this red minus button that corresponds with HP. And just like you saw with the experience points, there's a list of presets here that you can customize, only these ones are all negative behaviors that we want to discourage. So arriving late to class is worth negative 10 health points. I'm just going to click on this preset. And now what happens is a little bit different. So we can see that Marie-France is going to lose these 10 health points for arriving late to class, but we have a couple options at this point, and those options are presented under the team response column. So she actually has 2 warriors on her team who could use their protect power to help her. So we can just say, okay, Alex, okay, Vicky, do either one of you want to use protect? And let's say that Alex volunteers. Now this next screen is going to tell us a little bit about what the power does and how it's going to affect Alex for using it. So we can see his current stats here. He's at 60 health points and he's got 30 action points. And these little bubbles right below that are going to show us how those stats are going to change. So he's going to lose 8 health points because he's actually absorbing some of the damage for Marie-France. He's going to lose 10 action points for using the power, and he's going to gain 100 experience points for doing something good for his team. So this sounds good to him. And now everything happens in real time. So Marie-France didn't lose any health points. And if we take a look at Alex, he lost a little bit of HP. He lost that AP for using the power. And he also gained a little bit of XP. And again, we can check the game feed just to double check that all of this happened. It's taking just a few seconds to load there. My connection must be a little bit slow. There we go. So we can see all of that did happen in real time. So certain types of powers such as protect can only be used in certain situations, such as when a student is losing health points. So protect can only be used in that instance. But other types of powers can be used at any time. That can either be during class or outside of class. One example of that is the heal power. So if she wanted to, Marie-France could say thank you to Alex for protecting her, and she could restore some of the health points that he lost. So she loses some action points, and if we look at Alex, he regained some of the health points he lost when he protected her. So this is just a small taste of the team dynamic that goes on from class to class in Classcraft. Typically, the warriors protect their teammates. The healers restore their health points when they get low, and the mages restore everyone's action points so that they can keep using their powers. So all of these different characters have different strengths and weaknesses that so that they're encouraged to rely on each other and work together as a team to succeed. Now, if a student is acting out a lot, maybe their teammates don't want to help them. So in which case, if we remove more health points from Marie-France, let's say this time she was being rude to a classmate and that classmate happened to be her teammate, we can just let her take the damage if they don't want to help her. Now, if she continues to take damage and her teammates don't protect her, she is going to fall in battle, and that only happens when a student loses all of their health points. So if we take more health points away from Marie-France, let's say that this time she was bullying a student, we're going to see this warning pop up that unless her teammates help her, she's going to fall in battle. So I'm just going to let her fall in battle for the sake of this example. And now what happens is that she receives a sentence or consequence that's randomly selected from a list. So you can have your own list of sentences that you customize. In this case, her sentence is nothing, so she lucked out on that. Other examples could be having to copy a text or having to help clean up the classroom, things like that. So I'm going to accept this Marie-France. And now what happens is there's a secondary consequence for everyone on the team. Everyone is going to lose 10 health points, as you can see by these red bubbles here. So when this happens, we could click on the students' names to allow them to use their powers to help each other, or we can just let them take that damage. Now, if you have another student on this team, like Lauren here, who is at really low health points when he's taking this damage, he will fall in battle, in which case there will be another team loss of 10 health points, and this can get out of hand really quickly. So there's obviously a very strong motivator among students to work together to avoid getting to that point where they're falling in battle and taking all that damage. So they'll start to do some self-policing. So if you have a student acting out in class, their teammates may say things like, hey, calm down, we don't want to lose points today. Or, you've been late every single day to class this week. You got to come to class on time because it's really starting to hurt our team. So there's a shift from the teacher policing the class to the students doing it themselves. Another thing that we notice is that students will take ownership of their behavior much more readily. So if a student comes late to class and they lose health points because of that, they can't blame the teacher because they know that's a rule in the game and that is a fair consequence. So as I mentioned, students also have action points, or AP, which again is this blue bar here. And these are typically replenished with powers such as mana transfer. So the mages typically replenish action points. And there's also a small amount of AP that regenerates every day automatically at midnight. And that's about 4 AP a day, 28 a week. So this allows students to use their powers once or twice a week. Using powers is obviously a very positive motivator for students. And of course, like you saw with the health points, students have a max amount of AP that they can have at any time, depending on their character. So while the mages tend to have really low health points, they have the most action points that they can use at any time. The warriors are directly the opposite. They have a ton of health points and fewer action points. And the healers are more balanced in terms of HP and AP. And again, that just goes back to the different strengths and weaknesses of the characters and how that encourages them to work together as a team to succeed. There's also gold pieces, or GP, which again is this gold bar here. And again, you can customize this list of presets, but you can give these gold pieces to your students with the gold GP button. so that they can customize the overall look of their characters. So if you have a student who's going above and beyond in the classroom, really doing something special, you could give them some gold pieces and they could use that to change their characters' clothing and boots and headgear and so forth. The last button here is this black minus plus button. And you can use this whenever you need to correct something in the game. So if you need to give back points, you can type in a positive number. If you want to take points away, you can type in a negative sign and then the number. And you can adjust multiple points this way. So this pretty much wraps up this viewpoint here. I'm going to see if I can get my chat back up just to see that you guys are all on the same page with me. Let's see. Open up a second window here. Yes, Andrea, the free version is a great starting point. I definitely recommend going with the free version just to get a feel for everything. And then if you'd like, you can upgrade to premium. Definitely start with the free version though, and we actually have a demo class that'll allow you to check out all of the premium features as well, so you can really get a feel for if they're for you. Let's see. So in it says, so they can only design the avatar. There's no playing a game like an action game or something. Or are they just motivated enough for that? So the most motivating part of Classcraft for your students is going to be these powers. The powers give them those real benefits in class. So even if you have students who aren't super into video games and they're not motivated just by the idea of playing this in class, they're still going to want to get those powers because those powers are real benefits for them. So it's going to give them, those benefits like being able to use their notes on exams, getting to eat a snack in class, getting to turn in an assignment a day later, things of that nature. So that's going to be motivating, even if the idea of sort of playing a game in class isn't. But as far as going in and exploring a world, that's where Classcraft is different. It's not really about them having more screen time. It's about changing those dynamics in the classroom. So promoting that good teamwork, encouraging them to get along, especially if you have students who wouldn't necessarily associate with each other, or if you have problems with bullying or different issues in your classroom. This will really help to turn that around. So it's actually just changing how the class takes place. It's not so much going into like a typical video game world and exploring. So that is the main difference there. Let me see. Any other questions before I keep going? Yes, we do have different languages. I will show that in a bit. For age groups, it's a really good question because I usually recommend it in grades. Let's see. Since you guys are on European school system, I don't want to recommend the wrong age group. Let's see. Grade 3 in America would typically be 8 to 9, I think. Yes, that sounds right. So about 7 or 8 and up would be good for age groups. Julia had asked, I'm still not sure how you do this while you're teaching. Stop to use the computer after each student's action. So if you want, you can,
Dear Stephanie,
yes?
yes, I have recorded some questions, but if you would like, you may go on and we will keep, I have kept track of them and
Okay.
pose these questions at the end. For the moment, you can just see the questions that are running up to now, because you have missed some.
Yes, yes, I lost my chat for a little bit there. So I'll just keep
Okay,
going
I have
and,
recorded.
okay, fabulous. Thank you. Okay, so I'll just keep going here. All right, so we actually have two different views that you can use as well during class. We have a team view where you have all the same buttons here, only if you want, you can remove or give points to an entire team at once. So let's say that, for example, everyone on the Blue Llamas team helped me wash the beakers during class. I could give them all those 30 experience points just with a single button click. We also have a class view, so if you want, you can give or take points from the entire class at once. You can also just select certain students that you want to give or take points from. And you can also do things like filter by character class. You can see just the healers, just the mages, or just the warriors. You can also mark students absent if you want to exclude them from the day's events, and you can sort by highest or lowest XP, HP, and so forth. So this covers the main part of the game dashboard. This is what you would have running most of the time in the background of your class while you're teaching, and you'll be working with this quite frequently. We also have something that we like to do at the start of each day, and those are random events. So we like to start each class with a random event. These bring the students' attention to the front of the class right off the bat, and it adds some surprise to the day. So we'll click the check mark and see what we get. This one says help to the feeble. A shaman decides to help the feeble. The student on each team with the least health points gains 15 health points. So we could go back to our class view or team view, and we can look in the game feed if we forgot what that random event was, which I often do. So let's see, who is the student on the Blue Llamas with the least health point? That would be Lauren. So I could just give Lauren some health points using the black button there. So you could do that with each team. Now, sometimes these are positive, sometimes they're negative, and sometimes they're totally silly. So this one says year of plenty, the harvest was good, the country is rich. Each student gains double AP today and 50 experience points. So that one's a good one. Sometimes these can be things like having to talk in pirate accents for the entire day. No one can lose health points today, which is another good one. Maybe somebody has to sing a song. You can put whatever you would like for these different random events. The idea is just to create a shared experience in the classroom and to get everyone focused and settled down for the day. So you would typically do one of these at the start of class. They take just a minute or two to do, and then you would teach as you normally would and assign points as needed. So if someone were to fall in battle or take damage, you would deal with that in real time. Now we also have a Wheel of Destiny, and sometimes the Wheel of Destiny will pop up when you are doing a random event to call upon a random student or team. A lot of teachers like to use this as a tool all on its own if you need to select students to answer questions during class. You can use this for that purpose. So this will pick a random student for you, and you can keep picking new random students if you'd like, and it will keep a tally of all the students in your class. So it'll keep cycling through there, and if you want, you can just reset that tally. We also have the Book of Laments, and this is where if a student falls in battle and receives a sentence, their name and their sentence gets recorded in the Book of Laments, just so you remember that they have a sentence to complete. So once they've completed their sentence, you can go ahead and check them off that list. We also have a messaging feature if you want to send announcements to students or to parents, or you want to talk with them individually. You can do that in our messaging system. So you can send announcements out to everyone, either students or parents, and you can also talk with them individually. And you can see this works sort of like a text message conversation. So I'm going to go ahead over to the teacher homepage and show you how to set up a class and just give you a quick overview of this screen. The teacher resources section here that we have will take you to our help section, which is a really nice resource when you're first getting started. We've got lots of content in there related to how to play the game, how to get set up, and so forth. So lots of different good features in here, some resources for your classroom and so forth. We have your class list right here, so any number of classes that you put into the game, you can see them all here so that you can access those on the game dashboard. And if you hover over this circle button, it will bring up some options. You can see the settings for your class. We have a little rules customizer that'll help you come up with some ideas for presets and things, sentences and so forth. An introduce feature, which will introduce the game to your students on your first day, and things like a rule summary, so your students know all your game rules and so forth. So what I want to show you is just how to create a class. So one thing I do want to know before I show you that is that we have some buttons at the bottom if you want to download our iOS and Android apps. They're really streamlined for if you're just walking around during class with your smartphone or tablet. I know we had somebody ask about do you have to go back to the computer at every time? You certainly do not have to do that. The mobile apps work really well just for giving and taking points. So definitely feel free to use those. Okay, so if you're starting the game, the first thing you'll want to do is just click New Class and enter the name of your class. So I'll make this one a math class. And if you have customized the game already, you can always import your settings from the demo class or from any of the other classes that you've made. If you're just starting from scratch, you can just go ahead and click Next. At this point, the settings wizard will ask you for your class duration and how many hours per week you see your students, and that's going to use that information to determine the best settings for you. So it's just going to make sure everything is nice and balanced for your particular class. Once you've done that, you can start adding your students to the game. All you need to do this is just their first and their last name. You can enter an email address for students if you'd like, but they'll all get a chance to make their own username and password, so you can skip that if you'd like. You can either enter this information just like this, or you can copy and paste your student list from a Word or Excel doc using the instructions over here on the right. If you have a student who is in another class or in another teacher's class, you can connect with teachers and share students and share customizations. So you could import that student from the student database. And that'll allow students to play the game in multiple classes with the same character and the same account, which is going to make things a lot more convenient and just to help make that game experience consistent across their school day. You can also import students from Google Classroom as well. Once you've done that, you can start adding your students to teams. You can just drag and drop students onto the teams, and you can change them at any time during the year if you need to. Couple notes about teams. You want to have at least, if you can, have about 5 to 6 students per team. You also want to have at least 1 warrior, 1 mage, and 1 healer on each team so that your students have access to the full array of powers in the game. And we also recommend dividing your students into teams academically. So you don't want to have all of your students who tend to struggle on one team and then all of your students who do really well on another. You really want to mix them up so that there's a good balance so that they can help each other out. So once your students are on their teams, you can go ahead and either email the invites to them if you entered email addresses, or you can download these handouts for your students. And these handouts have instructions for how your students can create their accounts and set up their character. So it'll give them a nice little student code. And we even have parent accounts as well if parents want to be involved. So you can give them a parent account that they can use to sign up for the game. So that handout is a really great resource to distribute the first day of class. So you can go ahead once you've done this and start customizing your class. So we'll go to our class settings. You can add or edit students anytime during the year. You can even set up their character for them if you'd like. You can customize teams. You can put a different crest for the team. Your students can pick the team name that they prefer. And you can set a team background as well. Parents, you can invite parents to the game as I mentioned. You can also change any of the presets for experience points, health points, and gold pieces. Powers, you can change the name of any power in the game, and if it's not directly tied to game mechanics, you can change what it does as well. So you can change the description here, how much AP it costs to use, and whether or not it is a collaborative power. So whether they'll get that XP bonus for helping their teammates. Sentences and random events are completely customizable. And under advanced are some other options. We've got the game settings, which relate to any game mechanics. You can also change the max amount of health points and action points for the different characters. Interface has just a bunch of random options. You can sort your students by first name as opposed to last name. You can set a second language. I know you guys will be wondering about these different languages. These are all the different ones that we have. So we have French, we have German, Spanish, Dutch, and so forth. So all of the ones that you see here, you can sign up for the game in those languages if you'd like. And you can also toggle on and off the different sound effects and background music for the game as well. If you ever change your mind about importing settings, there is an option here to do that. And if you no longer need your class, you can archive it. So that'll get rid of it so you don't have to look at it anymore. So it won't clutter up your view. So the last thing I want to show you is the student account. So I'll show you the student account very quickly, and then I will answer some questions that we have, some outstanding questions that have come in so far. So this is the student account for Lauren. When he logs into the game, he can see his character, he can see his team crest, his team background, all the details about his character, so he can use his powers, he can learn new powers, and he can see if he has any sentences in the Book of Laments that he still has to complete. He can also see everyone in his class. So he can see this pretty much as the teacher would. There's not those buttons to give or take points, obviously, but otherwise it looks pretty much the same. He can also see the game feed, and that's really important if a student is absent. That way they can keep track of everything that's going on in the game. We also have an equipment section, and this is where students can spend those gold pieces that they've earned to get different outfits for their characters. So as students level up, they'll get some gold pieces. If you're using our premium version, you'll be able to give them gold pieces, and they can also train some pets to get gold pieces too. But they can either purchase these complete outfits for their characters, or they can mix and match them. So you could change different elements here and really personalize them and have fun with them. Students can also train pets. We've got these adorable baby griffin pets that are available to students for free whenever their parents sign up for the parent accounts. But we also have normal pets in our premium version that they can train. So they can send their pets on little training quests and get some gold pieces as a reward. We also have a class content that students can access. This is our learning management system, which is where you can type in your lesson plans, you can post assignments, you can have discussions with students and so forth. So lots of different things you can do in this section. And of course, students have access to the messaging so they can see announcements from you and also talk with you individually. So at this point, I will bring up the chat here, have it open on my second monitor. Let's see. Feel free to type in your questions for me. Sorry about that problem I had earlier with the chat. I'm not sure where it went, but I've got it open now so I can see everyone's messages. And like Carrie, if there's any bigger questions that I missed that you want to go ahead and just ask, I'd be happy to answer those as well.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Our guest rushed into the classroom, and I didn't even have the time to present her, so she got self-presented. For those of you who have come late into this classroom, I would like to inform you that the lady over here is Mrs. Stephanie Carmichael. She's a freelance writer and copy editor, but also a proud advocate of games. What is mostly important for us tonight is that she's the editor-in-chief in the Classcraft of the Classcraft blog and the head of content for Classcraft. What you have presented to us up to now makes us realize what really gamification is, which means, as we have understood, you get the game elements and you have applied it into the classroom, isn't it? Because some of the audience misconfused it with real games. Actually, it works as the badges we know, isn't it?
What do you mean by badges? I'm sorry.
Yes, here we are quite familiar. Here in Europe, we are quite familiar with badges as a gamification, a type of gamification. But yeah, this is the different thing that you do is that you actually work in your classroom, but you make a game environment, and even if you want to reward them or to punish them, you use the avatars and the rewards, and this is quite funny. However, I have noted down some questions for you. For example, I have noted down a question by Luisa Infante. What class is it suitable for? I don't know if she's talking about the age of students. Is that what you mean, Lisa? Okay, what about the age? What kind of students can we apply this classroom?
So for ages, we typically recommend 8 or 9 and up. So it works with, in the US, we would say elementary, middle, and high school. So I think that's primary and secondary for Europe, if I'm not mistaken. So it works for a wide variety of ages. As far as types of classes, you can use it as a layer over any subject that you're teaching. So it doesn't matter whether you teach English or Spanish or you teach math or social, like history, anything that you're teaching, it can work with that.
Okay, and Julia Mühlmann asked something about the activities. What are the activities? I don't know what she meant, but I suppose, can you apply this type of gamification for any activity you want? on any subjects?
Yes, yes. So any subject. So the game itself is not content based. So it's not related to any specific subject. It's more related around gamifying the classroom to make it more fun for students and also to manage behavior. So getting things like encouraging participation, encouraging teamwork, reducing problems, like if you're having problems with bullying in your classroom, things of that nature. But there are ways that you can incorporate your content into the game. So you could do that if you'd like through the presets. A lot of teachers get really creative with the presets, and they put, for using vocabulary correctly if they're teaching a language class, or giving a maybe giving a presentation about a historical figure. You can do anything you want and give those points to your students. And as I mentioned, we also have that class content piece, which is where you could add your lesson plans. So you could type in you could put your lesson plans in here. You could collect assignments from students. So if you want to collect homework or other projects, you can also have discussions with your students as well. You can gamify it as well. So you can basically monitor that online discussion between your students. If they're acting appropriately, if they're participating in that discussion, you can give them those experience points. If they're sort of acting out or being inappropriate, you could take away their health points. So it's definitely compatible with anything that you're teaching.
And what about the languages? Is it available in several languages or just in English?
In several languages. So we have, I believe, 8 languages. It's definitely in German, French, Spanish. I believe we have a Chinese version. We have some fringe languages. We have Catalan, we have Russian, and we have Dutch. We don't have Italian at the moment, no.
Okay, and now last. I don't know if you can answer to this.
Okay.
Is there any limits to the?
Okay. No limits. So you can add as many classes or students as you'd like.
Okay, and how do you monitor all that with big classes?
So,
for example, Cynthia said that she saw in the screen that there were 19 students and she has got 28. How can she manage all these things?
So I would say if you have a class between like a smaller class or like 30 students, it should work fine. We've had people, we have teachers who teach it with college classes where they have 60, 70 students and it works fine for them as well. It can certainly be as hands-off or as hands-on as you want. So if you want, you can have a student assistant for the day. Have a student keep track of some different things where you want to give points or take away points. You don't have to use all of the presets. If you want to just give experience points to check homework, you can do that. Whatever your particular class group is struggling with. So you could basically think of, you want to give experience points for things that you want to encourage in your class and take away health points for things that you want to discourage. So some teachers find that having a student assistant definitely helps with that.
Okay, and
I just lost you.
Last question. What of the time management? How can you teach and work on this at the same time? And there were some suggestions from a part of the audience that said that perhaps we could make a board in the classroom and write down with points and then put them in the game after the class. What do you think? What could you say to them?
Yes.
How can we
Yes,
manage a
absolutely.
classroom like this?
Having a student assistant definitely writing the points on the board and then putting it into the game later. Using the mobile apps makes it go a lot faster too. We're going to be adding a feature later this year that is a delayed damage feature, which basically will allow you to deal with removing points later in the class, so at the end of the class. Some other tips that might help you manage the game: you can just limit using powers to the first couple minutes of class. That way you can just get that out of the way really quickly and not have to do that in the middle of class. Students can also use their powers from their own devices. So if they have a power where they want to just quickly heal each other, they can use that without even having to ask you. So there's lots of different workarounds for how to balance the game depending on the situation that you're in. We have so many different types of teachers and so many different classrooms that there really is a wide variety of ways that people are using it. So I would say if you want to sort of find another teacher who is using the game and you're in a similar situation to you, to check our community forums. They're actually on our help section. We have a really great community forums where you can talk to other teachers about how they've been managing the game, how they're using it for certain subjects. So I would definitely recommend poking around in there. And I know we have lots of teachers in Europe, so.
Okay, and the last question, is there any highest point in that? And up to what degree is this platform free for the educators? Because most of the schools do not want or do not have the proper amount to spend, the budget to spend.
Right. So the highest level in the game would be level 18. Typically, you can have students who have higher levels than that, but level 18 is sort of the highest level in terms of students being able to get all of the powers in the game. So if you get a student who gets to level 18, you definitely want to reward that because that's definitely an accomplishment in its own right. As far as free and premium versions, those are our two versions. The free game is pretty much everything that I showed you today. The gold pieces, if you want to give gold pieces to your students, that is a premium feature. We have a lot of advanced features that I didn't really cover today. We have that class content, which is a premium feature. We have different quests that are premium features. So for example, we have boss battles where you can program in little quizzes for your students. So you sort of are fighting a boss and removing health points from the boss if they get questions correct. If they miss questions, they lose health points and so forth. So they're really great for review sessions. We've got a grade book, so you can reward points if you're depending on student grades or if they turned in their assignments on time. We've got a lot of different features. We've got analytics. If you want to track that behavior in comparison to the rest of your class over a certain period of time. So lots of different features that will gamify other aspects of your classroom as well. But that core component is what I showed you in the first half of the webinar, so that classroom management aspect. And that is free forever.
Okay, personally, I'm impressed by all these amazing things I have heard tonight, and I really want to thank you for being here. I don't know if there are any more questions from the audience, or perhaps there is something I have missed, a question I have missed. I can't see anything. I'm really satisfied about the opportunities that it offers to make our classroom motivating, engaging, and fun. For you, dear colleagues, I would like to say that we will go on our journey together to research on the kinds of thinking and learning that go into games and gaming culture in general, the benefits and drawbacks of digital gameplay or gamification, the tensions between youth culture and traditional education. And at this point, I have to thank you for attending. I wish you a good and relaxing night. Thank you, dear Stephanie. I'm really glad I have met you. And I'm really glad about the useful content you have shared with us. I would also like to thank the Central Support Service. Thank you, Beatrice, for your precious presence. Thank you, my colleagues, for coming. Stay tuned until to our next meeting. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you, Glycaria, for inviting me today. It was a pleasure to present. I'm going to put my email in the chat. If anyone has any questions, feel free to just email me at any time.
Yes, of course. And we would be really glad if we had the teacher that has applied it into his or her classroom to give us some examples of how he has been applying it into his classroom. It will be really good. We'll keep in touch.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Thank you again, Stephanie. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you too.